Hi class, so welcome back. Again, my name is Miss Celine and right now we are going to talk about our first topic in the contemporary world, which is the introduction to concept of globalization. Globalization, a debate. Now let's proceed first on the learning objectives. First is critically analyze and make a choice if globalization really exists or not. Second, differentiate the globalists from the skeptics. Third, discuss the difference of globalism from transnationalism. Fourth is determine the beginning of globalization. And lastly, decide which one is the most logical explanation on the origin of globalization. Now let's talk about globalization first. So, according to the resource that I have, globalization means the speed up of movements and exchange of human beings, goods, and services, capital, technologies, or cultural practices all over the planet. Further, one of the effects of globalization is that it promotes and increases interactions between different regions and populations around the globe. So, in simple terms, globalization is more on the movement that is currently or that is happening in our world. So, that in terms of the goods, the services, the capital technologies, and cultural practices. So, we all know that everything or change is inevitable, and so is the world. So, it changes in a pace that we can actually imagine. So in globalization, that's what we are going to talk about. We are going to tackle those things, those changes that is happening in the globe or in the world. So one thing of the effect of globalization in us is that it increases interactions between the different regions and populations around the globe. So aside from the changes that is happening, it also increases the different interactions in our world, in our society. For example, we have the social media. So the social media actually helps us to interact and also communicate with others from people around the world. According to WHO or WHO, globalization can be defined as the increased interconnectedness and interdependence of peoples and countries. It is generally understood to include two interrelated elements: the opening of international borders, increasingly fast flows of goods, services, finance, people, and ideas, and the changes in institutions and policies at national and international levels that facilitate or promote such flows. So in simple terms in here, globalization, according to WHO, this is the one where the different points of the people from across the globe are actually now getting to connect each other and to work on independently and also dependently on each other in the terms of interdependence. So because of this, the flow of or the continuous flow of elements across the world that includes the services, the finance, peoples, and other ideas are now going throughout the world. So that's how or that's what is globalization all about. So there's actually a continuous debate about what is globalization. Is it something that is good or something that needs to be skeptical about? So we have here the great globalization debate. That is the globalist and also the skeptics. So there's a meme in here that's globalization is killing the world, and the other one is very positive about it. Is globalization is the key. Globalist in here, these are actually people that promotes that globalization is existing and it encompasses the entire globe. So globalist in here believes that globalization is actually good and it actually helps people to communicate with each other and make things swifter and also beneficial. So globalist believes that it's there, it's human interaction, it's part of the human growth and also development. So as you can see in the picture, what we're told it is, what really it is. So that's actually how globalists or these are the people who actually believes and also promotes globalization. skeptics, on the other hand, these are the ones that contend that there is no such thing as globalization. So, because remember, there are a lot of news and hawks that, like the third world, I forgot, but Illuminati because of those kinds of things. Thus, people are skeptics about the existence of globalization. So they think and believe that globalization is something that non-existent, and it's actually just an part of the an illusion that the world is actually trying to say because of the higher countries and the elite countries just to control over the world. Furthermore, globalists believe that because of globalization, multinational companies, transnational economy, and the emergence of new global division of labor is now evident. So for them, globalization is good. It is actually functional. They are now, countries are now being interdependent to each other because of globalization. Again, this is the point of view of the globalist. How about, on the other hand, on the skeptics, in here, they have this idea that retains its focus on the national economies, like what I've mentioned a while ago. They believe that this is part of globalization is just part of a hoax because of the countries that are on top already, like for example Germany, Japan, and also those of the national or the powerful countries. So in here, the regional blocks of nation, powerful conglomerations regulates the global economy. They are the ones that actually regulates, and they are saying that globalization is actually just an image that is being portrayed by the countries that are on top, just to let the things that as if it's fair, but it's not. Okay, now let's talk about transnationalism. So transnationalism is processes that interconnect individuals and social groups across specific geopolitical borders. Like for example, Mexican-American border, and then like for example, because of their baseball sports. So in here, when we say transnationalism, in here, these are the product of the communication of two, for example, two countries, like for example Mexico and America. So they have they have borders. It was very evident that they are actually separate, but because of the sports, for example baseball, they were able to actually connect and actually be together at least. So that is what transnationalism is all about. So we have different origins of globalization. So we have first hardwired, followed by the cycles, and then phases, events, and even the last half of the 20th century. So now let's go to it one by one first. So the first one is hardwired. So hardwired in here, let me read it first. Globalization stems from a basic human urge to seek a better and more fulfilling life. For example, Ice Age ancestors from Africa spread to all the continents. Like in here, like what I've mentioned a while ago, globalization is something that is changing. That is something that is innate, and every one of us is changing. So that's what this theory of hardwired is also trying to say, that we are actually coming from something when we started from something, and it's our human urge to actually continue it and be connected with each other. So that's one of the theories of how globalization exists. Now let's go to the cycle. Cycle suggests that there have been other global ages in the past, and that this new global age will disappear in the future. So in here, the globalization is now being viewed as a part of a cycle. So it will come and goes like any others. It's like a circle that goes around and around. Sometimes it's on top, sometimes it's below, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. So that's what cycles is all about, and that's how they view globalization. Next is phases. So globalization functions as growing connectivity which develops and accelerates around various centers across time. So in simple terms in here, it's just like the moon, as you can see in the picture. So globalization functions as growing connectivity, which as you can see there, it has different phases. This is like the moon. It has different phases. So there's a full moon. So just like that's how globalization interconnects. And then next is events. So globalization begins on a multiple specific historical events. So in here, it came from a history of a specific person starting out on a integration or innovation in the past that now is developing throughout. So because of the events that we have in the past, globalization now exists. And lastly is the last half of the 20th century. So in here, the emergence of the US as the global power following World War II actually has an impact of how globalization now works. So there are a lot of scientists, mathematicians, and also people who contributed to the innovation of our country, even after the World War II. Actually, it started because of the World War II, and now the countries are now being challenged to be competitive enough to upcoming world wars, even though it is now banned to do those kind of things. But those kinds of things, those innovations, the birth of different ideas and knowledge actually triggered the globalization. The emergence of multinational companies. So like for example, Ford, Motors, and many more, because of this, companies actually it triggers and also it helps out globalization. And lastly, the fall of the Soviet Union and the end of Cold War. So we all know that a lot of things happened during the World War. So specifically World War II. Because of that, because of the divisions and because of the end of the war and also the end of the Cold War, a lot of innovations and strategies and also things has happened afterwards. And that's how globalization, according to this last half of 20th century, happened. So that's it. So I hope you understand all of the lesson today. So thank you for listening.